about 6:45. I'm gonna go fix the chicken waterer because it's frozen and we need to get a new one. Good morning, girls. Morning skies like this really make me excited for when we eventually get our next home. We could get somewhere we could get a really good view of the morning. But look at those colors. So beautiful. I just got finished adding some hot water to their water container because it was frozen. The nipples were frozen. It's all fixed right now. See, okay, and there's some hot water in there, which has melted the ice, which is good. It'll probably be cold, but functional. Got some extra bread inside. Give me some bread too. Good morning, girls. I'm gonna go inside because I made this amazing lemon balm pesto in the summer, and I put some of that in egg white omelet because I had all these egg whites left over for making the salt cured egg yolks, and I added in some mozzarella, and it's really good. So I'm gonna go eat that, and then we're gonna talk about what we're doing today. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Galaxy Gardens. Thank you for being here today. My name is Chrissy, and today I'm going to be talking about edible landscaping. Come with me. All right, we're back at the counter. You might recognize it from last week. This week's going to be a little bit different. No notebook this week. All right, we're just going to have a chat. I am a huge fan of edible landscaping. I think that if you could replace your entire yard with food, if you are so lucky to have a yard that you could replace to grow food, do it. Why not? What's stopping you? Do you know how many people don't have land, may never have property, okay, and would just love to have that? Use it to its best advantage. And I look at that, I am just so thankful for the property that we have, that I want to make it better than when we came in, and also make it manageable for when we eventually leave and go somewhere else, okay? So part of our plan for our property is a lot of perennials, a lot of things that aren't gonna need a ton of maintenance. We really want it to be set up so someone can come in and just keep going. So that's our main thought with the edible landscaping on our property. Now, we have done a ton. When I started this channel, it was towards the end of this season. It was, August 2021. It was only a couple months ago, right? What you haven't seen is all the work we did before, which includes building our garden fence, building all of our raised beds, filling them up, building our chicken run. We did a lot of stuff before we started this channel. And the reason why I'm talking about that is because when you're thinking of edible landscaping, that's something you want to plan for, and that's something that's going to take a lot of time too. And I'll be honest with you, it's going to take a lot of time. There's no quick and fast way to do anything with gardening, okay? It's one of the most long-running, rewarding arts, but it requires a lot of patience. Let's talk about some stuff with edible landscaping, okay? This might sound a little bit about what I was talking about during last week's video, but you really need to grow stuff that you like or you think you might like, because if you're just putting it in there and you're not gonna like anything that comes out of it, then what's the point? You're wasting your time, you're wasting the plant's time. The critters that might eat the stuff off that plant would like it, but if you're gonna put something in the ground, you're gonna wanna use it, right? and not just in eating it, okay? So put in the stuff you like or you think you're gonna like. I mean, you never know, you might not like stuff, that happens to me. In other cases, you know, it might not be stuff that you're actually eating. It might be stuff that you just wanna look at, right? There's a reason why people plant like tulips and daffodils and all that, because you like looking at it. Maybe you like having cut flowers in your house, right? That's fine. What I will let you in on is that there are a lot of plants that produce edible parts that also have pretty flowers or pretty foliage. I mean, the blueberries we have out front, they've just about lost all their leaves at this point, now that we're in like mid-December. But all fall, they have these beautiful bright red leaves. Absolutely gorgeous. During the summer, they had these really nice white flowers on them, which turned into the berries. Obviously the berries look really good on the plants. The leaves during the summer were like a bright green. Absolutely beautiful, but also beautiful year round. I mean, even in the winter right now, and I'll show you in a second, they're so gorgeous. Well, at least I think so. But we also have stuff, you know, that we don't eat. Like right next to our blueberries, we have a couple lilac trees, because I love lilacs. I want them to get bigger. The strip that we have the blueberries in gets very, very hot. Around our home gets very, very hot in the summer. So some things we've put in, so they grow taller and they offer some shade and they absorb some of the heat from the sun so our house doesn't get so hot. And that's the purpose the lilacs serve. I like to smell them, and they're gonna get big and provide a lot of shade. I'm very excited for that. Don't worry, the blueberries are not gonna get shaded out because they're in the way the sun goes over our house, it's gonna be fine. But, you know, other plants look absolutely gorgeous, and you get food from them, right? Raspberries, blackberries. There are ways to keep them from spreading everywhere. There are ways to keep them trim and neat and looking nice, okay? Another plant we have in our property are lingonberries. Nice, cute, small, green bush. When the flowers come in, the flowers are very pretty. They're another plant that has white flowers on them, very small, like bell-shaped flowers. And then when the fruit comes in, if I didn't pick all of it, it would actually still be on the plant right now, no matter how cold it gets. It's really good about holding onto its berries. If you've ever had lingonberry jam, it's delicious. So that's why I'm growing lingonberries. Other plants that look amazing, even like right from the get-go, strawberries, right? Obviously not bare root because there's nothing that coming up. But once they get established, they don't really drop their leaves. You know, sometimes the old leaves will fall off and you have new leaves coming in. But when the spring comes and they open up, they're gonna be one of the first plants to put out leaves. They're gonna be flowering, put out fruit all season, well, depending on what variety you get. And then in the fall, they might get a little bit more of like a dull matte green color. They might darken up a bit. Some cases they may get like a nice shade of red to them. Very pretty, very good understory plant. So edible landscaping, you can think of that for different types of bushes. I would highly recommend not just going in your catalogs and reading the descriptions, although those are great. Going online, seeing if people post videos of the different types of plants year round. You know, some plants, once you get what you get, they end up dying back and they have a shorter season. And they're not really like the prettiest the whole time. One I'm thinking of is like green beans. I love green beans. I think it's a really practical plant. I don't know. I don't think the plants are cute. I might take that back. But then once they start to like be on their way out, they look real nasty. That's not something I'm gonna use for edible landscaping, just personally. When you're thinking of edible landscaping and like the way stuff looks through the seasons, really look for what's gonna grow in your zone. So we are in Massachusetts, we're zone 6B. We got 4 seasons, arguably 6. That's a story for another day. But, you know, we're pretty much going from, you know, buds erupting on trees, blossoms opening, you know, if you've ever been in a fruit orchard in the very early spring, and there's just flowers everywhere. It's so beautiful. And then all the flowers drop because it's making fruit. And then for like a little while, you don't really see much until the fruit starts ripening and changing color. So, you know, you just get nice green trees, unless you're looking closely, but you know, from afar, you can't really notice it. And then as you're collecting the fruit and the trees hold onto the leaves for a while, right? Looks great. But, you know, when temperatures get down to a certain point, and I'm talking more specifically, if you're from New England, you've probably seen an apple orchard in all seasons, right? By a certain point in the fall, they're gonna drop all their leaves just like the other deciduous trees in the area, and then you're just gonna get this scraggly looking plant. And I think there's beauty in that as well, but not everyone wants that, right? And not everyone has the room for that. Like, for example, I'm not gonna go throw a hazelnut tree in my front yard that's gonna get like 12 feet high. I can't manage that. I'm not comfortable with having a large tree like that close to my house. Personally, I wish I could take all the trees away within falling distance of my house, but I'm not gonna go into detail right now. Anyways, so you wanna think about size as well. You know, how's it gonna look through the seasons? How big is it gonna get? If you're living somewhere like in, you know, you get cactuses, right? You're in a place where you can grow cactuses, maybe tropicals. Those are gonna look a little bit different through the seasons. I think like Opuntia cactuses, I have those. I think they look amazing, whether or not they're flowering. Obviously they're gorgeous once you have the flowers coming out, and then you have the fruit coming in. And when you don't, you get these, you know, nice, neat petals. They look cool. In some cases, they're hardy. So, like, even here in New England, there's some Opuntias that can deal with winter. They don't mind the cold. They don't really like moisture so much, but they're okay with the cold. So there's all different things you can grow. If you're in a tropical landscape, where you can grow like guavas, loquats. I have all these tropicals in my tent, and I'm like blanking on all the names right now. You know, for a portion of the year, you're gonna have these like nice lush greenery. Also, you're gonna have flowers coming in. You gotta keep them pruned to different stuff so they can maximize their growth, and you get the fruit coming in. It's kind of similar, minus like the drastic leaf fall we might get, or you might see somewhere that gets winter, okay? So do you want your property kind of looking the same year round? Are you okay with drastic changes? Do you care if something gets really, really big and maybe overshadows other stuff? Or do you want everything to kind of be nice and neat in its own little pod? Those are the things you want to consider when you're thinking of edible landscaping. Before I get into garden design, right, edible landscaping design, before I get into other things you can do, I'm gonna take you around and just show you a little bit of what we have going on for edible landscaping, just like around the immediate part of our house. It's not that much. We're definitely gonna add to it this year. But it looked pretty cool in the frost this morning, so I'll show you that. Come on, let's go outside. This is one example of edible landscaping, and that is using blueberry bushes. Let's see if I can get that focus. There we go. Using blueberry bushes as part of your landscaping. So a little strip here. It's mulched in. You can see there's nothing else between these bushes except mulch. That's one option. Another option would be to turn this into full gardening space around it. We're not at that point. You can see we've done the same here with the gooseberries. That's because I got them in before it started getting cold out. Now these are the lingonberries we're going to see next. I got them in time to get the mulch. It looks great. But when you're thinking of edible landscaping,
you want to consider, you know, how big these are going to get, but also, are they something that really cares about root space competition? Will it be helpful to have something growing in its understory or not? There's a lot of things you can do. So these lingonberries, they're going to get maybe like 12 to 18 inches out and up. So there is extra space here. So if I wanted to turn this into growing space, add in maybe some high bush cranberries to offset it. These gooseberries are definitely going to take up the space. But you got a lot of options. It looks nice. Berry bushes are very, very good options for edible landscaping if you don't mind them spreading out. So I haven't cut these back. But this whole space from where the deck starts to the sidewalk is about 4 feet-ish, 5 feet. And at their height, they were taking up this whole area. So you'd be mindful of that too. Not just what they look like when you plant them, but what they're going to grow into. Different from that is this fig tree, which you saw in another video I put to bed. That particular fig tree is probably not going to take up more space than right here. So what I could do is add more around here, also turn that into growing space. Maybe even put some strawberries around it. You got lots and lots of options when it comes to edible landscaping. If you wanted to go as far as building more raised beds in other parts of your yard, that's an option. These were my corn, wheat, and rice beds this year, but really only did so good with the corn. And the benefit of building your own beds is you can make them as big or small or whatever shape you want. I went with rectangles because I'm not that creative, but it's a nice way to add extra food to your landscape. Also, I hate grass, so I turn our whole yard into growing space. That's fine with me.
Okay, as you can see, we have pretty consolidated spaces for each of the things that we're growing. So when you're thinking of edible landscaping, you know, you want to take into consideration how your stuff is going to look, how it's going to grow in, and how you're going to keep it growing the stuff you want to grow. So the way I do that is this year, you know, I got so much mulch, put everything around just to give the plants I put in a good running start of getting their root systems established and getting ready to do, you know, the bulk of their growing next year. So between now and, you know, this time next year, I expect them to get much, much bigger than they are since the first year that they've been in the ground. Now, if you want to do edible landscaping on your own property, if you're so lucky enough to have property to do that on, you know, you want to take into consideration stuff around your house foundation. You really don't want things that are going to creep and impact your foundation at all. So, you know, if it's like anywhere closer than maybe like 15 feet from your house, would not recommend putting a tree there. Okay, their roots they tend to be shallow and they go out about 10 or 15 feet. Depends on the kind of tree. If you're thinking of fruit trees, definitely that. Even if they're on dwarf stock. Now you might see sometimes for fruit trees that they'll say that the roots will spread out maybe 5 or 10 feet. Trust me, just add an extra 5 or 10 feet to that to be safe. All right. So this is why I put things with smaller and, you know, less encroaching root systems next to our house, like the lingonberries and gooseberries. The raspberries and their location might not seem ideal because if you know anything about raspberries or even some kinds of blackberries, their roots will spread underground and then they'll just pop up. Let me tell you, it's pretty easy to deal with them if you're paying attention, because right when they pop up, if you cut it, you're good. It's not gonna end up taking hold. You just gotta maintain that, okay? And that goes with part of just maintaining your edible landscape anyways. if you're thinking of stuff you want to put in and just have it be as easy as possible, definitely recommend fruit trees and berry bushes because they're pretty low maintenance. Sometimes you got to do stuff like spray for insects or fungal disease, if that's your jive. And then pretty light pruning, like once or twice a year. That is way less daily effort than when you have your annual garden, okay? So that'd be my recommendation there if you want to just set it and forget it for the most part, right? I mean, even if you have regular plants, by regular I mean like evergreen bushes, rhododendrons, stuff like that around your house, berry bushes and trees, I mean, that's the closest you're gonna get to it. And there's gonna be variations between everything too. Now, if you are someone who you know you're gonna be a really active participant in everything going on with your property, and you know you're gonna be up there every single day just making it look mint, right? You can also turn your annual garden into an edible landscape. There are so many videos online, you can find them, where people turn their front yards, and it's not even that difficult a process. If you have some grass, you can just flip it over, add some new like mulch and soil on top too, and make these really gorgeous designs with your annual garden, right? You can make a grape arbor, right? Have that go over your walkway. You can have other vining plants do that. You can have like a hardy kiwi arbor, right? That's what we're doing in the back with the garden, having to go along our garden fence. So vining plants, bushing plants, trees, right? Those are good things. If you live somewhere where you don't get like a winter that gets below like 55, 60 degrees, you can actually grow pepper plants for multiple years and you'll end up with a little pepper tree. And if you have tomatoes, if it gets somewhere that doesn't really get below like 65, you can get some pretty huge tomato vines too and do some cool stuff with that. One of the most popular ways to incorporate your annual garden into edible landscaping that I've personally seen is just through your salad greens, hardy greens, and root crops, because they come up very quick. And especially for hardy greens, you know, like kales, Swiss chard, stuff like that, they tend to last throughout the season. And if you're somewhere that gets winter, they can last, you know, pretty much until when the winter's starting, and you're not even gonna really mind if you can't see your garden anyways. And you can do all different designs with that, which is great. Or if you're thinking of stuff that's more permanent, right? I've seen people make like herb spirals, flower spirals, where you're really just stacking rocks up and then putting soil in between to add to that structural integrity. And then it's there, and then in the winter when nothing's growing in there, you can still see this elevated spiral design. So it's really just, you know, how you want your property to look. I think it goes along with any other landscaping. Look around, go for different catalogs. I'll tell you, there's all these different online retailers, and I'll put a couple in the description that I like to use. This isn't an advertisement for them. This is just places I've gotten stuff and it's been pretty good. So I'll put those down in the description. But, you know, typically it's so easy to get overwhelmed when you go and you're like, I want, I don't know, a peach tree. And you go and there's like 60 peach varieties you can get, right? So if you can try any kind of food ahead of time and you're like, yes, I want that, it grows in my area, I'm gonna do my best to keep it from dying, go do that, go get yourself some, right? Other things that might not do so well, or maybe they're not acclimated to your climate and you can't do things like bring it inside, outside, during the times would be like most sensitive to the temperature changes, maybe order it, you know. There's an idea too that some people are like, buy the cheap stuff at the store and just grow the expensive stuff at home, you know. Like if you're really cooking with saffron, obviously it's a very expensive item from the store, just, you know, per weight. You could grow saffron at home. Or if you're like, nope, I want to grow everything at home, anything I might need in a year, knock yourself out. Thinking of edible landscaping and the annuals, for the annuals, right? And say you're someone who lives up against the woods and you're using like your entire property, use your annuals to your advantage. So thinking of that, right? You want to think of stuff that's going to be a root crop on the edge of where you want to stop weeds from coming in, right? Think of potatoes. If you're growing potatoes and you want the weeds to stop from like encroaching in from anywhere, like you don't want it encroaching in from, put your potatoes there. They actually do quite a good job of stopping stuff from growing through them. Now, don't take my word with that for like mints and stuff, but general like grasses or other kinds of like weeds you might not want along like a woodland line, put your potatoes there. Okay, potatoes are very forgiving when they grow, and they can act as a good barrier there. I've actually tried that out the other year, and they did a good job. It was pretty surprising. Now I can't attest to like if you'd put like a bunch of carrots next to the woods or beets or something if you'd have the same effect, but it's a pretty cool thing to see that area with potatoes. Use your annuals to your advantage. When you're thinking of stuff to get and bringing in pollinators, beneficial insects, all that stuff, ditch the catalogs. Just don't even look at the catalogs. Go to your local garden centers and get yourself some native plants to incorporate into your landscape. They could be native grasses, flowers, whatever, because that's going to bring in the stuff that's beneficial to your area, which in turn is going to help pollinate the stuff you want to be pollinated, like your berry bushes and your fruit trees and all that good stuff. So that's my 2 cents on annual, perennial, edible landscaping. Okay, so in summary, when you're thinking of your edible landscaping, first and foremost, think about what you want to eat, what is realistic to grow in your area. Now, I'm not saying you can't zone push. I love zone pushing. I have the means to, bring some of my frost tender, like trees and stuff inside. But if you can't do that, please just be honest with yourself about what you can and cannot grow. Grow what's going to suit your area. All right. Grow what you want to try to eat or what you're interested in eating. Think about how many of each type of plant you're going to need to grow. Okay, you're not going to get, like a container's, what is it? Maybe like half a pound of blueberries a day from one bush, right? You're going to need like several bushes to do that. Even my raspberries I had growing out back, one plant was giving me maybe a pint a day, a pint every other day. So think about what one bush is gonna, or tree or whatever, is gonna get you when you put it in. If you just wanna like have it there to look nice and you wanna snack on it every now and then, maybe one of each variety, unless it needs to cross-pollinate with another variety within the same species, or maybe it's a self-pollinator and you don't need another one, but you really like that variety and you want 2 of them. Take that into consideration. Take into consideration the maintenance you want to do. Like, do you want to spend all day watering stuff? Maybe you want to have them included in a water feature. Maybe you want them to be able to withstand being dried out, water stressed, all that stuff. So climate, access, maintenance, okay? And then from there, you can have fun with it, right? You can experiment with different stuff. So the types of fruit trees we got in our backyard, we got from a local nursery. Well, at least the like generic fruits like the apples and pear and peach, because they grow well in our area. And they are okay with getting a chill time in the winter, right? Other ones don't like getting a chill time in the winter, like my persimmon in my figs. If I didn't wrap them, they would probably be dead. Although this is still even an experiment this year to see how they're gonna do with being wrapped. I expect that they're gonna be fine because they've been growing in the ground all summer, but we'll see. Taking that into consideration, that some things do better, like one peach tree will do better here than another kind of peach tree just because of the climate. And, you know, when are things gonna come into flush? Maybe one type of blueberry is gonna fruit at this time of year, another one's gonna fruit at this time of year. So you'll have a combination of ones that are in flower, or maybe just have the green foliage, or maybe have the berries on it, and using that to your advantage when you're getting really creative with developing the landscape you want. Maybe you're really into natural design, like natural, soft, like wavy lines instead of like hard rectangle lines like I have on my property. You can make that too. You can make faux rock walls. Well, it's a real rock wall, but you'll be developing it and have stuff growing on like a slope, or maybe having stuff growing out from the rock wall, like different types of mosses if you want that as an accent. There are so many things you can do with edible landscaping. It's really, really cool. And the longer we stay at our property, the more we're gonna add to it. Thinking of parts of your property that maybe it's not like the most visual spot, you know, maybe your like thing that's like your pride and joy every year is your one little pumpkin patch in your front yard because it looks amazing. You get your pumpkins, right? Think about the other parts of your yard that, you know, aren't the focal attraction. Maybe you have a spot in your yard that's shady, maybe not shady, maybe it retains some water. What about some ostrich ferns? I think they needed chill time. I'm gonna double check on that one. But maybe some ostrich ferns in like a more swampy area of your yard because they can handle that extra water, and they're absolutely gorgeous when they're growing in. And also, it's edible in the springtime. You can collect the fiddleheads. Now, a note on fiddleheads, please have someone show you how to collect them and do some research on which ones are edible, because there are fiddleheads that if you're just like walking through the woods and get them, like they can make you very sick. But ostrich ferns, those are pretty safe bet. All right, all different things to consider with edible landscaping. If this is something you are interested in some more, and maybe you want to know some different stuff, or maybe you want some guidance, put it in the comments or send me a message on Instagram or TikTok. You can find me there at the Alex D Gardens. Otherwise, I will go ahead and see you next week. This week I think I was a day late for a video because I took a day off. Next week we'll probably have one out on Tuesday. We'll see. Next week might have a video about chickens. We'll see. I don't know. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you haven't done so yet, go ahead, subscribe, or just let your friends know about this so they can watch these videos too. And otherwise, I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.